You've taken on a tough job trying to elect Democrats in a midterm election. What you have going against you is history, of course, because historically, presidents will lose seats in the Senate, lose seats in the House. If you lose one in the Senate, you've lost the Senate. But then we're living in the age where the impossible has happened. We just elected 2 Democratic senators in Georgia. So how do you make the impossible happen again in 2022 and elect and preserve Democratic control of the House and the Senate?
Well, I think you're completely right, Lawrence. We are living in unprecedented times. And one of the things we do know is that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the Democrats in Congress have delivered immediately on so many things that they said they would do. And what I do know from 2018, we won the House back because of women. They turned out in record numbers, a historic gender gap. Women won the elections again in 2020. And I believe that's going to be the route in 2022, which is why I'm excited about this project with American Bridge. Women lost so much during COVID. 2.5 million women lost their jobs, and they are looking for government to do something about that. And the incredible thing is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have done that, as you just said, not only shots in arms, but and stimulus checks to people, but reopening schools, focusing on things that women need to get back in the workforce, like childcare, like paid family leave. And I think these kind of practical, economic issues that that women have been looking for help on, we're delivering on. And I think it's also important to remember that Joe Biden did the American Rescue Plan without a single Republican vote. And that difference, I think, can really make the difference for us in 2022.
Let's listen to the first woman vice president in history talking about how this administration is targeting the needs of women.
When we are talking about those moms who need to walk on the sidewalk to get to the bus, pushing a stroller, walking a toddler, they are not identifying their problem through the lens of who they voted for in the last election. When we are looking at the capacity to grow the economic vitality of communities, including small businesses, and increase the productivity of a workforce, much less expand the workforce, what we know is that the reality is that people, regardless of who they vote for and which party they're registered with, that's what they want. And that's what they want to see their government focus on.
And so far, Cecile, there's a poll showing that 67% believe that Republicans are compromising too little with Joe Biden, that they want to see much more Republican compromise with Joe Biden, which they are not getting.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we're seeing is the Republicans actually don't have anything to propose that they're doing. And that's why I think they're going after voting rights and other issues. I think what is important, and Lawrence, the thing that we need, why it's so important that we're doing this work now to educate women and all voters about what this administration is doing is we know what happened under President Obama. We passed historic healthcare reform, but we didn't stop to actually explain it to folks, let them know the benefits they were getting. We just kept going. And I think right now, what American Bridge is committed to doing, what I'm committed to doing, is making sure that women know what's in the American Rescue Plan, what the jobs package is, and what the American Family Plan is, so that when it comes to 2022, it's not new news, and they're ready to reelect Democrats in the Senate and the Congress.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.